All right, so let's look at number one. So just really quick, we're going to go over the warm-up. I'll go over the triangles homework from last night, and then we're doing something different with triangles today, okay? There is tutoring today. If you need help on anything we've done, stay for tutoring. Excuse me, I got the hiccups, y'all. If you just want to come after school and get some practice problems before your quiz tomorrow, totally cool too. The quiz does not have mid segments on it, and it does not have what we're doing today. So stuff from the warm-up and then stuff from last Friday, Monday, Tuesday, that's fair game, okay? Sound good? It's a very short quiz. I only gave you 35 minutes to take it. It's 8 questions, and like 4 of the questions all go together with the same picture. So really, it's only 5 questions. So you should do well on it. It's a pretty easy quiz. So for number 1, how did y'all go about finding X? Who can tell me the first thing they did? Jaden, what'd you do first, bud? Very good. So he said the first thing he did was find the third angle in the triangle on the right. So he said he added 57 and 43, which would give you 100, and he subtracted it from 180. So do y'all agree this angle is 80 degrees? Which means what? Somebody different. What's step 2? Hales, what you got? This angle is 80 as well. How do you know that? Who said it? Vertical, good. They are vertical angles. So let's talk about our angles really quick. Vertical angles do not have to occur with parallel lines. If you have an angle looking across at itself like a reflection, they are going to be equal. Do we understand? All the other kinds like corresponding, alternate interior, alternate exterior, those have to be parallel. These do not, okay? So very good. So if that's 80, what do we know the other 2 together have to be? 100. And if they both say X, that means these 2 are equal. So what should each one be? Very good. Did y'all get 50 for X? Something similar to that on your quiz tomorrow. All right. Any questions from anybody at home? I feel like y'all did really well on the front side of the worksheet, and it was the back that kind of got some of us. Keyshawn, Riley, Tyler, Beatty, Jeremy, any questions?
I'm good.
All right, thanks, girl. Okay, so for number 2, find the measure of each angle. I'm gonna zoom in really quick. What did you guys get? I'll take volunteers. Online people, this goes for you as well. Who can tell me what they got for number 1? Let me see hands, or let me hear y'all say me. All right. Anybody online before I call on somebody? Okay, Evan, you're new. What'd you get for 1? Be careful. Angle 1? 90. What you got, Jaden? 112. How did you get 112? It's supplementary to 68. So they form a straight line, which means they should add to 180. Now I'm going to piggyback off of what he said. If 68 is reflected, it would be reflected at 2, right? Because those are vertical. So this one would be 68 degrees. So let's go ahead and talk about this too, because there's something similar to this on your quiz. If this top right transversal is not parallel to the bottom transversal, then 90 and 1, even though they're corresponding, they're not going to be equal. Does everybody agree with that? Because the transversals are not parallel. Does that make sense? Okay. But what can we mark as 90 degrees? 3, because these 2 are side by side, which means they should add to 180. What's that called? Supplementary. There's a section on your quiz where you have to find missing things and justify it, okay? All right, if 3 is 90, do y'all agree that means this angle right here is 90? Good. So then what would angle 4 be? 22. Very good, because these 3 should add up to 180. Very good. And so what does that mean angle 5 is? Very good, 158 degrees. What questions do we have on the warm-up before I put my homework answers up and we go over some? Resume recording. The triangle on the left, these two sides are marked the same. So what do y'all think that means about the angles underneath them? They're also the same. I was hoping y'all would pick up on that, or that you learned it in middle school. If a triangle is isosceles, not only are the two sides the same, but also those two bottom angles are the same. So if the top angle is 56, do y'all agree 180 minus 56 is 124? So if you divide that by 2, what are these two angles? 62. All right, I'm gonna switch colors so y'all can see. If this bottom right angle is 62, what is the one beside it? 118, very good. And now so y'all can see a little better, I'm gonna turn my paper, okay? So everybody look, I'm just turning. Look at the green triangle now. What do you notice about these two sides? They're the same, which means the angles are also the same. So you should have done 180 minus 118, which is 62. Divide that by these two angles because they're equivalent, and you get 31. That was a tricky problem. So I'm gonna pause and see if there's any questions. So what we're talking about today, page 41, are congruent triangle theorems. So I'm gonna pause so y'all can copy that down in your table of contents, and then we'll get going. All right, so triangle congruence. The first thing we need to talk about, and I have said it before, I need to make sure y'all understand what the word congruent means. So what does the word congruent mean in geometry? Means what? Equal. So if I'm talking about congruent triangles, I'm talking about triangles that are equal. Very good. So congruent just means two geometric diagrams are equal. I'm gonna put an equal sign. I know y'all like to keep it short. So I want to ask y'all a question, and I'm trying to think of how to best word it. Do you think to be able to tell that two triangles are equal, we need to know every single side and every single angle? Why not? He said no, so I'm asking him why not. Because y'all can't just be guessing in here, you know I'm gonna make you back it up. Yeah, tell me why you don't think we need to know everything. I'm gonna kind of illustrate what you tell me so we can check you. What? How you gonna say no? Okay, do they look equal? Okay, come on now, y'all. Don't play me. They're supposed to be equal. Y'all are mean. That's fine. I can play some of y'all's grades, but I won't do that. I didn't take art in high school. I'm not artistic. That's my downfall. I'm pretty good at pretty much a lot of other things, not art. Ain't my thing. All right, listen up. They're supposed to be equal. I understand the one on the right is a little bit smaller, but if I do this, then it actually doesn't look that way. So ha, haters. You cannot assume that they are equal. I have to tell you certain parts are equal. Okay? Now, I'm going to go ahead and answer the question for you. You don't need to know every single thing. Let's talk about it. Let's say this angle, those two angles are equal. Let's say they're both 50 degrees. And then let's say I mark these two angles are equal, and I tell you both of these are 40. Let's not do 40 because somebody's going to tell me that other one ain't a right angle. Y'all going to make me mad. If those are 50 and 60, what does that mean the third one has to be? 70 in both of them, right? So do you need to know all angles? No, you also don't need to know all sides, okay? To be able to tell that triangles are congruent, you need to know half of the information. So let's talk about it. How many sides does each triangle have? How many angles does each triangle have? What's 3 plus 3? 6. So half of that information would be knowing how many things? 3. If we have 3 things in any 2 triangles that are marked congruent, we can prove that the triangles are congruent. Does that make sense? So if I got 2 angles and then like a side, then these triangles are going to be congruent. Because that's 3 of the things in each that are equal. You know the third angle would be equal. And based on those 2 angles, these 2 sides also would have to be equal. Okay? Does that kind of make sense to everybody? We're about to write it down in words because I know some of y'all need the words. Just want to make sure we're all on the same page. So, 2 triangles are, and I'm going to put this symbol. What do y'all think that symbol means? Congruent. Very good. So if you want to write it at the top, you can. It's an equal bar with a squiggly above it. That means congruent. 2 triangles are congruent. I literally just said that. Oh, are equal. Dang, you just now on that. Oh, no. Okay, 2 triangles are congruent if they have corresponding sides that are equal, or corresponding what? Oh no, a triangle has 3 sides and 3 what, babies? There you go. Or corresponding angles that are equal. And then we just talked about this. Do you have to know all 6 things? Okay. So knowing 3 out of 6 pieces of equal info is enough to prove congruence. So I'm going to pause while y'all finish writing that, and then we're going to write down the 5 ways you can prove a triangle is congruent, and then we'll do examples. So there are 5 ways you can prove a triangle congruent, but for today and tomorrow, we're just going to talk about 4 because they're the main 4 ones, and they're the 4 you need to know for Math 3. All right? The 5th one doesn't really fit with them. So I think the easiest way to do this is just us kind of make like a table, because then you can have the like way you can prove it, the little short description, and then a picture. And then we'll get into examples. Sound good? Okay. So this is the 4 postulates for triangle congruence. We'll talk about the 5th one next week if we need it. So 4 postulates for triangle congruence. Postulate is just another name for like rule. So these are theorems. They work every single time. I'm just going to write them down, have y'all copy, and then we will talk about each one. Okay. Oh no. So before anybody even says, is the 5th one ass? No, it is not. We've already talked about this. Should we be saying bad words in math class? No. No. ASS is not a congruency rule, and I need y'all to understand that. Because anytime on your worksheet, if they give you ASS, you can't prove that they're congruent. Does that make sense? Yes? Okay. If you know two sides, everybody look at me. If you know two sides are congruent, you have to know the angle in between them. That's the only one that'll work. Side, then an angle, and then a side. Does that make sense? So for the second time, I'm gonna get in trouble for this maybe later because it's on the recording. AS is not a congruency rule. Do we understand? You write it on your paper, I'm gonna make a comment that says you are star backwards. You ask backwards. That is not a rule. You got it wrong. You got it twisted. Capiche? You've never heard that? He looked confuzzled. Not a rule. Please don't write it. Got it? Okay, y'all hear worse stuff at school anyways, but I'm just making sure we're all on the same page. What do you think the three S's stand for? Three sides. Side, side, side. So your first postulate that you can have to prove triangle congruence is side, side, side. You can literally write three sides if you want. You don't have to write side, 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 but that's what it stands for. So now we're going to draw a picture because I want to make sure that y'all have images to look at because a lot of y'all are visual, which is why you're doing well in this unit. If you see something like this, do y'all agree I have marked that all three sides have something to be congruent to? Yes. These are congruent. These two are congruent. And these three are congruent, right? So what that means, if all three sides are congruent, the angles will automatically be congruent, okay? So if you know that the three sides of each triangle are equal, like if one is equal to one, then the second one's equal to the one over there, and the third one's equal, then you can say the triangles are congruent. Does that make sense? Okay, I'm actually going to draw you a second picture, and I do recommend drawing it because this is the one that trips kids every single time. So draw that other picture too. Geometry is not my friend because drawing is not my thing. Okay, so the picture I just drew, y'all, I'm going to cover this other one up so you know which one I'm talking about. Those triangles are congruent by side, side, side. Can somebody, like, I don't want to say guess because y'all be blurting out crazy stuff. Can you tell me why? What you think? The middle is the same for both triangles. But I don't need to mark it equal. It's the same line for each one, right? If you see something like that, that's not assuming. You know it's going to be the same for both, okay? So that is also side, side, side congruence. Does that make sense? Okay, what do you think SAS stands for? Side, angle, side. And let's talk about this really quick. The angle is in between the two sides, correct? All right. You try to put it on the outside, that's going to say ASS, not a rule. Even if you put it on the right, that's SSA, that's just ass backwards, still not a rule. It still spells ASS just backwards, it's not a rule. Yeah, they both mean the same. That's why it's not a rule. It has to be, if you know two sides, you also have to know the angle in between them, okay? So let's draw a picture. I know the side on the left is congruent to that side on the left. And the side on the right is congruent to this side on the right. What do I have to know? The angle in between them, which will be this top one. Does everybody agree? Okay. If you know that, then they are congruent by side angle side. So everybody go with side angle side. All right, what y'all think ASA means? Angle side angle. So for this one, Jalen, oh my God, I'm gonna, Jaden, for this one, what is in the middle? The side. If you know two angles, you have to know the side in between them, okay? I'm gonna draw a picture. I'm gonna try to start drawing some funky triangles so y'all see stuff different ways. I have two Jalen's fourth period, and I've been tutoring a Jalen in the mornings. So the name is just in my head. But I'm not gonna do it again. All right, y'all, these triangles are gonna be congruent. One of them is just flipped. Does everybody understand that? It doesn't matter if they're flipped, one's turned a little bit, whatever. If I mark things are equal, then they still have the equal measures, okay? So we're gonna have this angle be congruent to, let's do this one just for funsies. That one. And we're gonna have this angle be congruent to this one. Do you see how I'm marking them differently? If I mark them the same, that would just mean it's isosceles, right? All right, and then I need the side in between them. So somebody tell me my triangle on the left, where am I gonna put the side mark? On the left. What about the triangle on the right? On the right, good. So those triangles, even though it looks like I turned this one, they're still congruent by angle side angle, because I'm telling you these measures are equal with those markings, okay? All right, and then the last one, and then we're gonna do some examples. This is angle, angle, side. So you can know two angles and then a side outside of them, because if we know two angles are congruent, that means the third one would also be congruent. Remember the picture I drew for you? Yeah. I know two angles. Man, drawing is not fun. Angle, angle. And then a side on the outside. So let me ask y'all a question. Does it matter if I mark the right or the bottom? What do you think? No, because they're both on the outside. They're not in between the angles. So I'm gonna mark the bottom one. Those triangles would be congruent by angle, angle, side. That's a great question. Let me make sure they're all okay with it, and then I'm gonna answer that because I was hoping somebody would ask that. People online, are y'all okay with this picture before I add on really quick? There's not AAA, because just because all three angles are the same doesn't mean the sides are the same. You could have a really big triangle that has like 50, 60, 70, and a really small triangle that's still 50, 60, 70. So you got to know at least one side to prove congruence. That's a great question too. My people at home, y'all are not talking to me again. Don't make me call home. There's no point in y'all getting up here and being silent. You can just watch the video later.
I'm good. Yeah, that's fine.
Okay, there they are. Tyler, I missed you, dude. All right, listen. They asked, what if I marked the bottom and then this side? Is that the same side being congruent? Be careful. This one is beside the angle with one hash mark. This one's beside the angle with two. Those aren't the same side being marked congruent. So if they did something like that, you can't prove those are congruent. So you would either write no or can't prove or not enough info. I'd take any of those. Okay? That's a great question. Any questions on the 4 postulates? You need to know these. SSS, SAS, ASA, AAS. Draw them on your mirror at home with a little glass marker. Write them on your hand. I don't care. You don't need to write it on your hand for the test because it's open note. That would be kind of dumb. Capiche? All right. I'm going to switch to the worksheet so we can do a couple examples, and then I'm turning y'all loose. So we are going to do some of these off of the front. So we need to practice naming congruent triangles. And yeah, that's it. All right, y'all. I want to do, let's do 2 and 4. Is everybody paying attention and y'all with me? People at home, you can just watch right now if you want, and you can copy later, or you can try to copy now, totally up to you, but I am going to go a little quick because I think y'all may need my help on today's assignment. Okay, CAR is congruent to this other triangle. That's what that symbol means, right? So what the directions say is name the congruent triangles. Do you think you can put this other one in any order you want? No, you cannot. You have to name it correctly. So let's look at the picture for a second. I did tell you they're congruent, but can somebody tell me why they're congruent? By what postulate? SSS. Good job. Who was that? L'Oreal, extra credit. Good job, Abby. Oh, if you know side, 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 they're congruent. So let's look. It goes in order CAR. So everybody watch. I want you to trace this triangle in that order, CAR. So everybody look. If we go from C to A, what side length was that? 1. Then if we go from A to R, that was side 3. And then if we go from R to C, that's side. So the order you need to go in when you name this other triangle, I hope we are looking. I got about 5 of y'all not making eye contact with me. Soraya, you with me, babe? Okay, if we go in order 1, 3, 2, that's the same order we have to name this one in. So we need to go side 1 to side 3 to side 2. So how would we name it? GEO, very good. Who did I lose? Because this is the part y'all mess up on. Y'all can tell me if they're congruent because you can easily see the 3 sides, but then when I tell you to name it, y'all put it in the wrong order. It can't go the other way. It's got to line up with the matching sides. So 1 to 3 to 2 would be CAR. So 1, 3, 2. Everybody's good? You okay? Okay. All right, let's look at 4 really fast. Can you prove these are congruent? I love doing this one. Okay, I'm hearing yeses and no's. So somebody that's saying no, tell me why you're saying no. AAA, that ain't one of your rules. However, somebody who said yes, what do you notice? Okay, like 3 of y'all said yes, and now you quiet. Oh, anybody at home? What did you say? Okay, that all 3 angles are marked the same. That doesn't mean anything about the sides. Oh, there is. It's a shame y'all don't know your alphabet. Okay, what about the O? There's a OX on each one. Everybody listen up. This is like saying these are the 2 same sides. So let me draw y'all a picture to help you see it a little better because this one is very tricky. If I pushed these together and this is OX on both of them, is that side going to be the same in both triangles? Yes. Yes. No. Listen, I love you. You're wrong. So I'm not going to waste my time arguing with you because you're going to waste our time. They're both OX. Is side OX in one triangle going to be the same as side OX in the other? Yes. If it wasn't the same, I would give them different letters. Do we understand? That's the same thing as these two being pushed together. And since you're arguing with me, let me just show you. Because you're the one that told me this. If the side is the same, if they're touching, that means it's congruent, right? Okay, so look, if you push these together, they had this angle marking. They had 3 here and 1 here. Then they had 2, 1, and 3. Those triangles are congruent because that middle side is congruent. So technically this is angle, side, angle. You have the side in between 2 angles, right? Okay, who thinks they could name, so I'm telling you it goes F-O-X. F has 3 hashes, O has 1, X has 2. So 3, 1, 2, how would we name the triangle it's congruent to? Go ahead. BXO, 3, 1, 2. I love doing this one. I didn't mean to shut you down, but that's a hard problem. And every year I got a kid that wants to argue. I'm like, baby, it's the same side. I know it looks confusing, but it's the same side. So that's the kind of stuff they will throw to you if they're doing congruent triangles. Okay? People at home, are y'all okay?
Yeah.
Do we feel like we could name congruent triangles?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, so I'm going to skip 7. I don't think we need to do one like that because I gave you a picture. I want to talk about 8. So in 8, for this example, I'm telling you triangle EFI is congruent to triangle HGI. What should angle E be congruent to? How do you know it's H? Because of the order. Very good. When you name congruent triangles, you match them up with their corresponding parts. That was in our definition. We said 2 triangles are congruent if they have corresponding sides that are equal or corresponding angles. So when I tell you they're congruent, I'm matching them in the order they go in. What would side FE be congruent to? GH. Good job, y'all. What about angle EFI? HGI. Very good. If somebody doesn't get it, I need you to just say, how'd you get that? Give me something so I know you need help. What would side FI correspond to? GI. Very good. Angle FIE. Good job. And then side IE. IH. Do y'all feel like you could do this? Sure. I'm going to be nice and I'm going to do one from each side on the back of your classwork too. How does that sound? Does anybody have questions on the front? Like, can you name them? Can you tell me how they are congruent? And can you match the corresponding sides and angles if I just tell you the congruency statement? Do you feel like you could do that? There's no numbers. It's really like, I tell my kids all the time, this really is not math. It's like matching. Okay? People at home, you want me to do one off of each section in the back? What's that?
Yeah.
Okay, very good question. The line is a side. The little V shape, that's an angle. So I'm saying side FE. So if I drew these, because some of y'all are visual, as half of you aren't paying attention and are already on the back, and I didn't even look to have to know that. EFI, HGI. If you drew these out, EF would be congruent to HG. Yes, if you're telling me sides, it should have a line above it. If you're telling me angles, it should have the little V in front of it. Great questions. All right, Tyler said do 2 off the back. I'm gonna be tricky, you thought, haha. I'm gonna do number 4 with y'all. You do have to, baby, you have to do the whole back. It is not hard. I know he ain't whining. There's no numbers. You should finish this in 15 minutes. And you got 15 minutes. It's not hard. Look at number 4. It's saying state if the 2 triangles are congruent. If they are, state how. I'm not even asking you to name. I'm asking you to say yes or no and write the statement. I agree. These are yes. These two are congruent for number 4. Jordan, you paying attention? What postulate are these congruent by? Very good. How do y'all know it's ASA? The angles on the inside are congruent because they are vertical. All you gotta do is write yes, ASA. Yo, whiny boogers. That's the PG version. I'm not gonna say it. You're gonna get me in trouble. Interesting. All right. So that's what you're doing on the left. Does everybody understand? You're just telling me yes or no. And you're going to tell me if it's a yes, tell me how. If you go and write no for all of them, just so you don't have to tell me the rule, you're getting a 0. Do we understand? I don't normally have kids do that, but somebody last year did that, and that pissed me off. Almost all of these are congruent. I think there might be 2 that are not. Okay? All right, on the right side, this is the part where y'all will mess up. Everybody look. It says state what additional information is required in order to know that they're congruent for the reason given. So for number 11, I am telling you these are congruent by angle, side, angle. I'm asking you what piece of information is missing in the diagram I gave you for it to be angle, side, angle. So I see an angle, I see a side. That means we're missing a what? Another angle. So which 2 angles should be congruent for this to say angle, side, angle? Which ones? There's 2 here and 2 here. Huh? E. Did you say D? Okay, that's great. Don't write it down. Everybody look. If you told me angle D and angle S, I need you to read this order. Is the side in between the 2 angles? So that's AAS. You get what I'm saying? But that's where y'all will mess up. Did everybody see that? Are we watching? Because I don't want to hear this is hard. This is not. The side has to be in between the 2 angles. So if you said D and S, that's wrong. The side in between those 2 angles is not marked congruent. So Jaden, which angles am I missing, baby? Yeah. Okay. I'm going to say it again. Everybody look. You have an angle here congruent to an angle here. That's one set of angles, right? This middle side is going to be the same because it's in the middle. They're both touching it. So the side is the same. We're missing this angle. Angle, can you just say angle U? No, because they both U. Yes, angle, good Henry. TUD is congruent, I wrote the wrong symbol, to angle TUS. You are missing these 2 angles right here. If those were marked, then you could prove ASA. I feel like I need to do another one in this section. Y'all made me real sad. All right. What's wrong, Soraya? Ask me a question, baby. Are you sure? Did you say, can you see? And she said no. Let me make it clear. Is that better? All right, I got good teacher ears. What's up, baby? You could say DUT to SUT, but you can't just put U to U. I don't know what that means because they're both U. Does that make sense? If they were different letters like D and S, then you could put angle D congruent to angle S. It does matter the order. U has to be in the middle. Remember when we talked about naming angles? So you could do TUD or you could do DUT. If you do DUT, then you would have to do SUT because they got to match up. Is that what you were asking? Are you sure?
I just didn't know if we had to write that and draw the 2 angles up.
You don't have to draw the 2 angles. It says state what additional information is required. So I need to see the statement. You don't have to do that. I'm just doing that for my visual people. All right, I'm going to do one more because y'all seem a little lost. 13, we're trying to say these are congruent by side, angle, side. Before somebody says BC and KL, that would be SSA, which is ass backwards. It's not what I'm trying to prove. What am I trying to prove? Side, angle, side. So the angle should be in between the 2 sides. So what sides am I missing that should be congruent? Very good. AC and JL. Good job, Sean. AC is congruent to JL. That's all you're doing in that section. Telling me what's missing to prove it congruent by the rule I'm telling you. Does that make sense? People at home, any questions before I turn you loose?
No.